I never imagined a simple girl's dream could lead to a millionaire's heartwarming act of kindness. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a Friday. The sun hung high, beating down like it knew my trouble. My heart raced. The world around me blurred. I felt the weight of my family's expectations pressing down like a heavy stone. There I was, standing in front of that bleak, crumbling building, staring at the cracked pavement. It felt like my heart was pounding in the thick silence, echoing off the rusty metal. I had a dream, one that sparkled like the stars. I wanted to start my own little bakery, just a cozy corner where laughter mingled with the scent of fresh bread. But every time I shared my hope, people chuckled. A dreamer, they said. What do I know about life? They scoffed at him. Why Mom looked tired. Strained lines ran deep on her face, like roads that had been traveled too long. She worked 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. I could see the flicker of weariness in her eyes whenever she caught me daydreaming. I wanted to change that. My brother, always the jokester, tried to lighten the mood, but I could see the worry behind his smiles. That day, my world tilted. I received a call. A mysterious voice whispered about a charity event at a grand mansion downtown. It was inviting. They sought fresh talent for a baking contest. The prize? A staggering sum and a chance to showcase my skills. My hands trembled. Could this be my moment? A whiff of hope danced tantalizingly close, but I feared it would slip away like sand through my fingers that I rushed home, heart pounding, full of possibility. But with each step, doubt gnawed at me. What if I failed? I got home to find my mom looking at the bills, worry etched on her brow. I could never let her down. The tension grew heavy, thick like fog. I decided to go for broke. The contest was in 2 days that I spent that night preparing, mixing, kneading, trembling with excitement and fear. My father's old rolling pin felt worn in my hands, imbued with the dreams of a past life. The taste of flour hung in the air, a bittersweet reminder of cozy kitchen moments when life was simpler. However, just as I was about to finish, disaster struck. The power went out. Darkness clawed at the edges of my vision. Panic engulfed me. How would I bake? My heart raced. I scrambled for the flashlight, hands shaking as I fumbled to light the candles. The flickering flames danced, casting shadows that twisted the room into an eerie maze. Then, a knock at the door. My breath caught. Who would come here now? I opened it, trembling. Standing there was a figure shrouded in an elegant dark coat, face hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat. The stranger smiled softly, a warmth that felt out of place in the night. I heard you're in trouble, they said, voice smooth and reassuring. My pulse quickened. Was this a dream? An angel sent in my darkest hour? My heart pounded louder than before, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this person than met the eye. They held glittering jars filled with vibrant colors, ingredients that could elevate my humble dreams to the heights I wished to reach. I felt hope creeping back. What did they want from me? Why help a nobody like me? It didn't seem real. But as I stared into the depths of those wide, curious eyes hidden beneath the hat, an unspoken bond formed. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. My heart raced as I stood at the door, the flickering candlelight casting trembling shadows between us. The stranger's eyes sparkled with an intensity that felt like a shared secret, an unspoken understanding buried deep within their gaze. I was terrified yet utterly captivated. The fabric of the world around me seemed to stretch and contract, teetering on an edge that felt both exhilarating and precarious. Please, come in, I finally managed, mentally cursing my tremor-laden voice. They stepped inside, the cool air trailing behind them like a forgotten whisper. As I closed the door, the weight of expectations surged back, and my anxiety started bubbling within me. Thank you for trusting me, the stranger said, placing the jars on my worn kitchen table. The colors inside reminded me of the sunsets I would watch with my brother, each hue more vibrant than the last. I'm here to help. You have a gift. I wanted to believe those words, but as the hollowness of my home pulsed in the stale air, doubt gnawed at my insides. You don't even know me, I replied, my voice wavering as I contemplated my seemingly insurmountable struggles. What if I fail? What if this whole dream crumbles just like everything else? Sometimes a dream needs a push, the stranger replied, and their voice resonated with an empathy that stung my throat. I can give you the ingredients, but the heart has to come from you. With a wave of their hand, they gestured to the jars, each one filled with promise. Why do you care? I asked, the question propelled more by desperation than defiance. Why help me, and not someone else who deserves it more? The silence stretched between us, heavier than the storm clouds threatening to rain outside. Finally, the stranger let out a soft sigh. Because I've seen what these dreams can become. I know what it feels like to be trapped beneath the weight of expectation, to have your dreams brushed aside as if they're nothing. Trust me, I once had to claw my way through darkness too. My curiosity piqued. You? What happened? The words tumbled out before I could stop them. They paused, their gaze drifting past me, almost lost in a memory. I lost everything, they murmured. But I found my way back by seeking people like you. People with passion that can ignite the world. It's easy to forget how powerful a simple act of kindness can be. Perhaps I'm here to help you remember. At that moment, a flicker of warmth ignited in my chest. Maybe, just maybe, this was that push I needed. But a weight still tugged at my heart. My mother, my responsibilities, my brother's laughter that felt more like a thin veneer over palpable worry. What if my family needs me more? What if I'm making a mistake? The stranger stepped closer, the glimmer in their eyes urging me to see beyond the fear. If you don't chase your dreams, your family may end up losing you to regret. Do you want to live with that? I bit my lip, torn between safety and aspiration, a raging storm brewing inside me. What did I truly want? The reassuring patter of raindrops began to fall outside, mimicking the tumult within me. Help me. Then, I said finally, feeling a pulse of courage thrumming through my veins. I want this more than anything. The words hung in the air, heavy with the promise of possibility. The stranger smiled, and it was as if a ray of light pierced through my shadowed heart. Then let's get to work. As we set to work together, immediate energy flowed between us. Each mixture, each sprinkle of vibrant color eliciting excitement like a new chapter unfolding. I poured my soul into the dough, losing track of time, letting the rhythm of kneading and mixing clear my mind. With every bit of flour I dusted into the air, I imagined the vibrant future I could create. But as the clock ticked away, the reality of the looming contest began to tighten its grip. I could almost hear the low hum of the ever-approaching deadline in the back of my mind, the haunting voice of self-doubt whispering of failure. Would this bake be the one to make or break me? Suddenly, a frantic knock on the door interrupted my thoughts. My heart plummeted. Who could it be now? I traded wary glances with the stranger, and with a sigh of resignation, I opened the door once more. What stood before me was not a face I recognized, but something far more unnerving. It was my mother, her eyes wide with concern, her breath coming in hitches. Oh, thank God, she gasped, her voice thick with dread. I saw the storm coming, and I had a terrible feeling. Are you all right? Guilt rose in the pit of my stomach. My secret, the baking contest, the stranger, it could all come tumbling down in an instant. And as my heart wrestled with unease, I met the stranger's gaze, a knowing glance that said they'd help me untangle this delicate web unraveling before us. Mom, I started, unsure how to unspool the truth without shattering everything. But just as the storm outside intensified, the stranger stepped forward, their presence somehow a calm in the chaos, ready to confound the very foundations of my life and the reality I thought I understood. The storm's ferocity mirrored the tempest brewing inside me as I stood there, torn between my mother's anxious face and the stranger who had ignited a flicker of hope within my soul. My mother's hands trembled at her sides, and the worry in her eyes deepened the chasm of guilt already widening in my chest. Please, she implored, her voice breaking. I just need to know you're safe. Mommy am. But I fumbled with my words, each syllable weighed down by the secrets I clutched tightly. The strangers stepped closer, their supportive presence grounding me like an anchor in turbulent waters. Sometimes, Our hearts lead us down a path that feels unsteady. The stranger spoke softly. Their voice cut through the tension like a gentle whisper through the storm. But it's important to be honest. Even when we fear the consequences, that a fresh wave of uncertainty washed over me. During this moment of vulnerability, could I truly navigate the storm that had brewed between what my heart desperately desired and the fear of disappointing my family? My mother's eyes darted to the stranger with a mix of uncertainty and curiosity, yet I could see the flicker of trust begin to bud in the warmth of their presence. "Who is this?" she demanded, her voice firmer now, fueled by concern. The question hung like the droplets of rain outside, each moment pregnant with apprehension. "This is someone helping me," I blurted, the truth spilling out more abruptly than I intended. "They believe in my dream, Mom. They're showing me how to." I hesitated, the weight of my aspirations wrestling with my familial duties and fears. "How to create something beautiful." My mother's expression shifted, a mixture of confusion and maternal instinct clashing in the storm of emotions flickering in her gaze. "You mean that baking contest? But you have responsibilities. What about your brother?" The mention of my brother pierced my heart. The laughter that once resonated through our home felt like a ghost of a happier time, and the burden of protecting him loomed large. "I know, Mom, but so many dreams are tied to my hands, and if I can't nurture them, I fear I'll lose part of myself," I confessed, each word carrying the weight of 1,000 unspilled tears. Suddenly, a flicker of understanding blossomed in my mother's eyes, though shadows still lingered there. "But you're not alone in this. We all depend on each other." The stranger stepped forward, as if sensing the opportunity to bridge understanding. "You're right, and the love of family is a great foundation for any dream. But what if we could come together? What if the dream was not just about one person? What if it could uplift the entire family?" A thought sparked at their words, an idea poised on the edge of transformation. "What if I could merge both worlds? What if this dream could become our family's dream, even as its fulfillment depended on my individual pursuit?" My mother looked between us, uncertainty still present, but lessened by the stranger's surprising insight. "What do you mean?" "I believe in the power of sharing," the stranger replied, their eyes gleaming with purpose. "Maybe you and your family could participate in this journey too, where your skills can help enhance the dream." I could see in my mother's eyes the glimmer of hope igniting, the anxiety waning as the storm outside began to subside. My heart fluttered with unspoken possibilities. Was this the key to bridging my aspirations with my obligations? "But time is running out," I reminded, the weight of the approaching contest looming like a shadow. "I've already committed. What if I fail?" Together, the stranger repeated firmly but gently, "We can create something that is not just about winning, but about love, support, and healing. Maybe your family has its own talents that could enrich the experience. Your brother could contribute in ways you haven't even considered." A knot in my throat loosened slightly as I absorbed their words. I could ask him to help," I whispered, the idea swirling in my mind like a fresh gust of wind chasing away lingering doubts. "Please, with this opportunity, we can remind your family of joy. Education can be tasty, and through this experience, we can teach not just about baking, but about dreaming together," the stranger encouraged. My mother's expression softened, the fright in her eyes metamorphosing into something akin to optimism. "If you believe this can work, honey, then I believe in you." Tears threatened to spill over my cheeks as warmth unfurled within me. The storm hadn't just been the weather. It had been a reflection of the conflict inside me. "But there's the contest." "Contests come and go," the stranger replied. "The relationships we foster can shape us, and your journey can begin the very moment you invite your family in. All of this is an opportunity." The thought of involving my brother filled me with hope, yet layer it with a new fear. What if he couldn't keep up with this dream like I could? I found myself wrestling with spirals of doubt. Just then, cutting through our moment was a loud crash of thunder. The sheer force made me jump, a sudden rattle of the unsteady foundation I'd tried to build as I grasped for a lifeline without realizing just how fragile my hopes were. I remained quiet, lost in thought. My mother moved closer, and I could almost feel the warmth radiating from her concern. "Honey, whatever you decide, we'll be behind you. Just don't forget that you have a family who loves you." And in that moment of connection, I caught the stranger's eye. They offered me a nudge with a knowing smile that seemed to say, "This is just the beginning." The flicker of a hopeful flame began to burn within me. But just as I took a step toward clarity, my phone buzzed violently on the table. The message that appeared was from the contest organizers, detailing the rules again, just as a final confirmation of my enrollment crackled with anticipation. And then came the final line that sent a chill down my spine. A twist in the contest this year. All participants must showcase their family heritage through their creation. I stood frozen, the revelation crashing over me like a wave. How could I infuse the essence of my family into this bake when I felt so disconnected? My heart trembled with uncertainty. The stranger looked at me, and I could see the realization dawn on their face. My mother's expression also changed, the concern renewed, adding another layer of urgency to the situation, just as turmoil churned within me. "What now?" I murmured, each word tinged with unheard panic as I looked from my mother to the stranger, knowing full well that the answers I sought were imbued with more than a simple recipe. They lay somewhere between my heart and the hearts of those I loved. A gentle breeze gusted in from the cracked window, whispering shadows of possibility. And, in that moment, I knew that the path forward would not only challenge what I thought were my limits, but also redefine the bonds that tied us all. And with that awareness came the dawning realization change would mean not just diving into my own aspirations, but also learning to embrace the dreams of my family, no matter how daunting that might be. The air was thick with an unease that wrapped around us like the last whispers of the storm outside. The light from the window flickered as if unsure whether to cast a shadow or a glow, paralleling the tumult inside me. My heart raced as I read the message again, frantically searching for clarity amidst the blaring urgency. All participants must showcase their family heritage through their creation. "What do you mean, heritage?" My voice wavered, betraying the fear embedded deep within my chest. "Nina, maybe it's just an opportunity to celebrate what makes your family unique," my mother suggested, her tone a mix of cautious brightness and trepidation. "Incorporate our culture, our traditions, but how?" All I could envision were the mismatched pieces of my life spilling out like flowers scattered across a countertop. I took a deep breath, trying to shake off the clouds of dread, but there they lingered, heavy and damp. The strangers stepped forward, their gentle presence wrapped around me like a safety net. "This is your chance to dig deep into what being part of your family means. What recipes did your grandma have? What stories are tied into that kitchen?" As the stranger spoke, I felt my thoughts flicker between disbelief and excitement. My grandmother. She had a way of folding love into every batter, every pie crust of sweetness that danced on the tongue long after the last bite. What if that was the thread I needed to weave into my own creation? "But she's gone, I can't exactly ask her," I whispered, the lump in my throat returning with force. The ache of loss felt so sharp, so concrete. And yet, the stranger persisted, "Don't you carry her recipes within you? How about memoirs? The stories of family gatherings, the laughter, and even the struggles in the kitchen? Those threads can help you shape your dish. The challenge lies not just in baking, but in storytelling." My mother nodded slowly, her eyes softening with understanding. "We can recount those tales together, honey. Your brother will love to help with that too. Remember how he used to cling to your grandmother's leg when she cooked?" As I conjured up images of my younger brother, his small hands lifting bowls, his laughter echoing in the kitchen, a forgotten warmth prickled my heart. Memories danced around me, shadows of sweet aromas and flour-dusted laughter. It was there, I realized, in the memories the ties that bind us would illuminate the path ahead. I nodded, the idea taking root in my mind. "All right, let's try to involve him," I said, a tentative resolve creeping into my voice. "He can help me piece together the heritage we all carry. Together, then," my mother whispered, hope shimmering in her gaze as the previous tension melted away. "We'll uncover those stories, share them, and derive a recipe that honors her." USAS, we began weaving old family tales into a framework I could build upon. I felt a sense of duty, something more powerful than the fear of failure. It was the yearning to honor not just my dreams, but those of the ones who came before me. Every laugh, every cry, and every moment that built us up. The excitement of a shared journey mixed with fear as I realized the contest was in less than 2 weeks. Time was slipping through my fingers like sand, but I tried to focus on the possibilities blooming around me. What if we crafted something so exquisite that it captured the heart of the judges while telling a story of unity and love? Suddenly, my phone buzzed again, jolting me back to reality. This time, it was a message from my brother. Can you come home? Something happened at school. I need you. Panic filled my chest as I glanced at my mother, whose eyes mirrored my concern. What do you think he means? I don't know, but I need to. I stopped mid-sentence, my voice trembling. I need to be there for him. Go, my mother urged, her tone laced with both determination and concern. We can talk about the recipe later. Family comes first, but I don't want to abandon this. It'll be right here when you return, she reassured me. Our ideas won't vanish, and who knows? This might even help spur inspiration for the baking. I hesitated, battling an internal conflict that spiraled in my chest, a wish to dive fully into my burgeoning dream and an unwavering obligation to care for my brother. But then came a realization. The two didn't have to be mutually exclusive. The heartwarming kindness of the stranger reverberated through my thoughts, urging me to bring the two together. They'll be back soon, I promised, scrambling to the door, gripping the knob with a sense of purpose. As I stepped out into the world, the storm clouds had cleared, leaving behind a cool breeze that smelled of earth and renewal. Yet, uncertainty tugged at my heart with every step I took. There, standing in my brother's shadow, could I manage to be his pillar while still harnessing the weight of my own dreams? What awaited me at home would remain a mystery for now, but the unknown chilled my bones. I knew something had shifted. This was not just a simple call for help, but could also unfold a deeper revelation about our family's struggles. The moment I walked through the door, the fear for my brother and a newfound sense of purpose merged into one, pressing on my heart as ominous wails erupted from the living room. The sound of my mother's gentle voice trying to soothe him felt like a cracked echo as I stepped deeper into the scene. And it was then, staring wide-eyed at my brother slumped against our mother, that I realized my dream wasn't just a path of self-discovery, but perhaps the very thing that might bring healing back into our fractured family. The room was hushed, the air thick with emotions swirling like dust motes caught in a shaft of light. My brother, layers of sadness crumpling his small frame, hunched against our mother. Her arms wrapped around him like a fortress, but the tremors in his body betrayed that fortress, giving way to an emotional storm that mirrored the tempest I had just left behind. Joseph, I said softly, kneeling beside them, eager to reach out and help. What happened? He lifted his head slowly, red-rimmed and teary-eyed. They made fun of me. In art class, they said my paintings were stupid, that I should just quit. His voice hitched, and my heart shattered into jagged pieces. No child should have to carry that weight. Oh, sweet boy, I breathed, instinctively wrapping my arms around him. He fit against me so perfectly, just like he had when he was smaller, and I'd cradle him to sleep. You're a brilliant artist. Those mean comments don't define you, but they hurt, he whispered, the vulnerability in his voice chipping away at my resolve. I glanced at my mother, her eyes glistening, each drop of moisture carrying the burden of our shared pain, the remnants of the injustices we silently endured in various corners of our lives. That I know they do. I continued, my tone steady despite the quiver in my heart. But that doesn't mean you should stop painting. Your art is part of who you are, Joseph. It's beautiful. Don't let anyone snuff that flame out. Who even cares if it's beautiful? He mumbled, his usual brightness dimming under the weight of the world's harshness. That I do. I meant every word. And so does Grandma. The simple mention of her name glimmered like a tiny spark in the darkness enveloping us. Somehow, I felt that pulling the grandmother we cherished into this conversation could light a path toward healing. His gaze flickered with curiosity and a glimmer of hope. You think she'd love my paintings? She would be so proud of you, I told him fiercely, remembering how Grandma would weep over every piece of art we brought home, her joy infectious. Why don't we try to remember those times? Let's create something together just like we used to. Joseph nodded slowly, the prospect of remembering bringing a bit of light back into his eyes, as fragile as a candle flame. Okay, I took a deep breath, tying my heartstrings to my unresolved dreams. And then, after that, we'll work on my recipe. We can share our stories and our creations, and you can even paint what we make. His smile returned for the briefest moment, illuminating the room like summer sunshine. Together, We could do the Izumi rekindled purpose to honor our family could now intertwine with lifting my brother's spirit. We soon sat by the kitchen table, art supplies strewn like a battle plan paints in vibrant colors ready to spring to life, a blank canvas eager for its first strokes. I shared stories of Grandma's kitchen, as her flour-dusted hands worked magic, crafting treats that bonded our family together amidst laughter. With each word, Joseph's shoulders relaxed, the shadows of his hurt slowly melting under the warmth of our heritage. And yet, as we painted, an unexpected sadness loomed over my efforts, the nagging realization that while I mended the cracks in my brother's spirit, my own dreams felt adrift, the contest looming like an uninvited guest. I needed to channel my own emotions too, bringing the whispers of our family's past into my craft. "Joseph, can I show you something?" I suddenly asked, inspired by the spirit of the painting unfolding before us. I retrieved a worn, old recipe book, its pages marked with splatters of who knows what from years of cooking with Grandma. Joseph's eyes widened as I flipped through it, the familiar scent of vanilla and cinnamon wafting through the air from its pages. "This," I said, tracing the delicate handwriting with my finger, "is where we start weaving our family's stories into what we create." We worked side by side. I felt unity brewing between USA connection that bridging the gap generations had placed in our hearts. I found myself lost in thought, contemplating how our simple act of remembrance could heal deeply rooted wounds. But just as enthusiasm surged, the doorbell rang, sending icy fingers of doubt racing down my spine. My heart raced as thought after thought swarmed my mind. Who could it be? And could anything unravel the comfort of the moment we were building together? Joseph's face lit up with a mix of curiosity and unease. Together, we exchanged glances, the fragile hope we had just started building trembling against the unexpected storm hovering at the door. "He'll get it," I said, rising slowly, wiping my hands on a dish towel as I moved toward the entryway. The door swung open. It was a delivery man, his expression oddly serious, holding a large, clasped envelope. My stomach dropped as he cleared his throat. "Is this the residence of Nina Moretti?" I nodded, my heart pounding. As he handed it to me, the weight of it felt more monumental than the paper it was made from. My name was scrawled across it in beautiful, flowing cursive, a reflection of the uncertainty swirling inside me. "Seems it's quite important," he said, stepping back, his eyes flickering between me and the envelope. "Good luck." My fingers trembled as I closed the door, glancing back at Joseph, who was now standing beside me, his eyes wide with curiosity and a hint of fear. What was waiting inside could alter everything: me aspirations, my brother's well-being, our family story. Without opening it, the air thickened again, heavy with the prospect of revelation and change. "Who was it?" he asked, his voice barely above a whispered delivery. I replied, my mind racing with countless unknowns. I hadn't anticipated the sublime intersection of our lives could be lit by hope or crushed under pressure in a mere moment. I could feel the world stretching in both directions, an unknown destiny unfurling at our feet. Would the revelation inside the envelope seize me from my path, stealing the unity I sought with my brother, transforming our precious memories into shadows of discontent? Standing beside Joseph as I clutched the envelope, I knew one thing for certain. Our shared journey was only just beginning, and its very course could shift with the choice to embrace or reject the unknown that awaited just behind the paper seal. The envelope felt heavy in my hands, its significance blurring my vision like a fog rolling over a city skyline. My heart raced as I glanced down at Joseph, who stood silent beside me, the innocence in his eyes meeting the storm of uncertainty brewing inside me. I could feel his need for reassurance, and yet, I was the one trembling. "Oh, you want to open it?" Joseph asked, his voice tinged with a mixture of trepidation and curiosity. The flicker of hope mingled with dread curled around my stomach. "Let's sit down first," I suggested, attempting to steady my breath. I led him back to the kitchen table, where our colors, canvases, and the remnants of cookies we had made together still lingered, a stark contrast to the weight of the unknown. That we settled back in our chairs, and I placed the envelope in the center of the table. Joseph leaned in closer to me, his bright eyes reflecting a trace of the trust we'd been building. "What do you think it is?" "I'm not sure," I admitted, glancing at the intricate handwriting again, searching for a sign, a whisper of assurance. The longer I stared, the more the letters seemed to transform into symbols of fear rather than opportunity. But it feels important. Maybe it's a letter from Grandma. The idea soothed him, and a small smile flickered across his face. You think, what if she's sending us a secret recipe? Or maybe telling us to follow our dreams, I murmured softly. At that moment, I realized that the question we faced was more than simply opening this letter. It was about what dreams we were willing to chase together through the whispers of Grandma's past, or the echoing silence of our fears. Gathering my courage, I reached for the envelope, my fingers grazing the paper's surface, imagining the stories wrapped inside. Joseph's anticipation stirred the air between us, buoying my resolve even higher. Without another word, I slid my finger under the flap and pulled it open. Inside lay not one, but multiple pages, neatly folded and bearing swirling, elegant script that looked familiar, yet carried a weight unfamiliar to my heart. As I read the first lines, my breath caught. It wasn't a recipe, nor was it a long-lost message from Grandma. Instead, it unveiled layers of information far deeper than I had anticipated. The letter detailed a scholarship opportunity tied to the art contest, the very one I had almost dismissed as foolish. The scholarship was named in honor of a renowned artist who had come from nothing, but had managed to carve a path into greatness, a path I had dreamt of walking since I was a child. Our grandmother's stories of her enchanted garden dancing in my mind. But as I continued reading, the elation began to ebb, replaced by the horror of a terrifying twist. The scholarship was contingent on showcasing a piece of artwork at the upcoming gala I had convinced myself I wasn't ready for. The very idea of standing before a crowd, vulnerable, while clutching my dreams felt like a trembling tightrope walk above an abyss that I shared the news with Joseph, my voice shaking. It's a scholarship, but I have to display my art in a gala. Joseph, what if I fail? His expression darkened momentarily. But you are amazing at painting. You can do this, Nina. You have to do this. His unwavering belief startled me, tugging at my heartstrings like a sweet melody seeking the right note. But what if others judge me like they did you? I countered, the bitterness of words spilling forth, echoing the childhood scars we both bore. The thought of stepping into the spotlight only to be met with jeers chilled me to the bone. Joseph, unexpectedly fierce, grasped my hands with a strength that belied his small size. Then I'll be right there, Nina, and we can create something truly special together. Remember, Grandma always said that courage begins in the heart. His faith sowed a thread of hope through my brewing doubt, but the obligatory deadline loomed dangerously in my mind. It's just a few weeks away, Joseph, I murmured, the pang of panic rising once again. What if I can't paint something worthy? Then we'll paint the best piece ever. He reiterated, his face animated with a determination that inspired me, but also filled me with trepidation. The room felt taut with a mixture of conflicting emotions, anxious energy couched in the buoyancy of our dreams. We were two souls trying to mend without quite knowing how. Joseph's art lay dormant inside him, and my own struggles mirrored his. But there, in that moment, it felt as though we had become beacons of hope for one another as we attempted to reach toward the things we feared most. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang again, slicing through the air like a serrated knife. I shot a glance at Joseph, the worry creeping back into his features. What if something bad happens now? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. Let's find out. Wishing for a moment of peace, I crossed the room again, heart pounding in my chest, as if every breath were a ticking clock. I opened the door and there I was, met with a figure cloaked in a cozy gray cardigan, her face familiar yet distant. It was my childhood friend, Elise, woman whose laughter floated like sunshine in my memories and whose life had taken a drastically different path. Her presence, unexpected, stirred up a whirlpool of nostalgia. Elise? What are you doing here? I stammered, caught off guard. She smiled, that same radiant grin I recalled from our shared bygone days. That I heard you were back in town, she replied, her gaze drifting past me to Joseph, still sitting at the kitchen table. And I wanted to see how you were. Things are complicated, I replied, glancing at Joseph again, uncertain whether I wanted to let her into our turbulent world. That I know what it's like to feel lost, she said softly. But sometimes, we have to push through. Old friends make good partners for chasing dreams. As she stood in the doorway, something in her voice flickered like a candlelight, guiding my intuition. Maybe beneath the uncertainty and the looming chaos, there was a thread of kindness emerging, an unexpected connection that might supplement our journey together. Would you like to come in? I offered, feeling a shift toward openness rather than fear, hoping every door that opened might allow for more than just shadows. But as she stepped across the threshold, my heart began a new tumultuous dance. What did she truly want, and could new alliances be enough to sustain us through the challenges awaiting on the horizon? The possibilities blossomed like the beginnings of a petal forming, while our pasts remained tumultuous, waiting patiently to unravel. Together, we might find the colors that would paint our stories anew, or we could rather sink beneath the weight of promises yet fulfilled. As I faced another page of the unknown, only one thought crested above the rest. The journey ahead would forge a fiery path, and we had to decide how brightly to burn. As Elise settled into the living room, a hesitant warmth enveloped us, like sunlight breaking through the winter clouds. The initial tension of her arrival slowly melted, replaced with curiosity that twinkled in Joseph's eyes. He regarded her as if she were a new chapter in our story, one he was eager to explore. I noticed how easily she began to peel away my apprehension, as if awakening a sleeping part of me. "Joseph, this is my friend Elise. We grew up together," I said, injecting some enthusiasm into my voice, though uncertainty still tugged at my heart. "We were practically inseparable," Elise interjected with a laugh that reminded me of simpler times, even as it carried a hint of melancholy. "I've missed you, Nina." Her gaze softened, and I felt an unexpected urge to share all my burdens, yet I held back, tethered by my doubts. "Everything's been a bit overwhelming," I confessed, glancing at Joseph, who clearly wanted to dive into their budding friendship. "That's what I wanted to talk about," Elise replied, her seriousness breaking through the laughter minutes earlier. "I'm here to help you reignite your passion for art. I heard about the gala. It's huge, Nina. You have to show up, and we can work on it together." Her words held a promise, spiraling warmth that wound around my heart. But just as quickly, insecurity crept in. "Elise, what if my art isn't good enough? I haven't painted in so long. I'm terrified. Can I be honest?" she asked, leaning closer, her gaze piercing through my facade. "Your grandmother's stories lit a fire in you once. I believe you can find that fire again. You can't let the fear of failure dictate your future. Who cares what others think? This is about your journey." Joseph's smile grew, bolstered by her encouragement. "And he'll be here too, Nina. Together, we can make something awesome." His enthusiasm swelled my heart, yet the weight of doubt still pressed against me, heavy and relentless. The afternoon drew on, our conversations weaving between memories of our carefree youth and the burdens of adulthood that had blighted our paths. As we caught up, a stream of laughter emanated from Joseph as he shared his own artistic dreams, both innocent and unyielded by the harsh world that we had grown wary of. Elise listened intently, her presence bridging the gap between our troubled past and hope for a brighter future. Each moment revealed remnants of the bond we once shared, a connection fleeting yet deep. As dusk began to settle, casting soft hues around the room, I felt a growing sense of reassurance nestled in my spirit. Perhaps Elise's encouragement could lightly ease the spiraling fear and rekindle the creative fire that had long dimmed. Yet, grappling with vulnerability made my heart pound like a drum against my ribcage. What if I let both of you down? What happens if I pour myself into this and fall flat on my face? The words spilled out, heavy with fear and uncertainty, but Elise didn't falter. "You won't know until you try. And besides," she added, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder, "they'll be here to remind you of how truly talented you are. Sometimes, we just need a little push from those who love us to rediscover our light." Taking a deep breath, I mulled over her words. Hope flickered in the corners of my mind. Perhaps it was worth taking that leap, if not just for me, but for Joseph, who silently hung on my every word, his unwavering belief like a bright lantern guiding me through the dark. After Elise left, I gathered up my brushes and canvases, intent on painting. Joseph, inspired by my sudden energy, settled beside me with his own materials. I could sense the two of us melding artistically, in sync like music and harmony. Together, We worked late into the night, laughter escaping from our lips, the air now electric with possibility. Each stroke and splash of paint felt liberating, as if reclaiming pieces of us long abandoned. Yet in the back of my mind, anxiety loomed like storm clouds. The impending deadline flickered ominously, and every brush stroke felt like wading deeper into an unforgiving sea. Just as I began to feel a glimmer of hope, Joseph paused, his head tilted toward the window. "Nina, is that?" he began, trailing off as his expression shifted from excitement to confusion. I turned to the window, swallowing hard, my pulse quickening. A figure stood framed against the hazy glow of the street lamp, tall and imposing, a shadow from the past that stirred a tempest in my heart. As the figure took a step closer, recognition crashed over me like an incoming wave, pulling me under. It was Roger, the man whose disapproving words had carved deep scars on my self-worth, whose mere presence had altered the landscape of my childhood dreams. "What's he doing here?" I whispered, dread crawling forth like a serpent of the past awakening. Joseph looked from me to the figure, wide-eyed. "Do you want me to go get the door?" His innocence nearly broke me. How could I shield him from what loomed ahead? "No," I replied, feeling the ground beneath me shift. "I need to face this." As I approached the door, fear wrapped around my chest like a vice. Behind it lay a chilling blend of hurt and a challenge to confront everything I had buried for far too long. In that moment, I understood. The journey ahead had just become infinitely more complicated. Would I have the strength to confront Roger, to reclaim my story, to finally show Joseph that love and art could withstand the darkest storms? As I opened the door, adrenaline surged through my veins, my heart pounding like thunder, and the shadows of the past creeping forward, threatening to swallow my resolve whole. What was waiting for me on the other side? The door creaked open slowly, revealing Roger standing there, his silhouette cutting a striking figure against the flickering light from the street. His expression was an unsettling mix of nostalgia and apprehension, as if he were grappling with both recognizing a long-lost friend and confronting his own ghosts. "Nina," he said, his voice low but resonant, echoing with a familiarity that made my heart stutter. "It's been a long time." I felt the chill of his presence seep into the room, wrapping around me tightly, yet I stood firm, summoned by a surge of defiance I didn't know I possessed. "What do you want?" The words tumbled out, sharper than I intended. He hesitated, shoving his hands into the pockets of his coat, a defensive posture I had known all too well. "I came to see how you were doing." "I heard about the gala," he said, his gaze flickering over my shoulder toward Joseph, who remained a silent observer, his eyes wide with concern. "Why now?" I pressed further, the old wounds clamoring to resurface, bidding me to recall every stifled dream and harsh words spoken in the haze of my teenage years. "You had your chance to be there, Roger." His brow furrowed, and in that moment, I saw a flicker of regret pass over his features. "I know, Nina. I made mistakes. I wasn't the person you needed back then. I was scared, too scared." My laughter was hollow, the sound bouncing off the walls as I felt the years of pain uncoil within me. "You were terrified of my dreams. You didn't see the girl who wanted to paint the world. You only saw a liability." Roger's expression darkened, and for a moment, I debated slamming the door shut, never wanting to revisit this chapter again. But something held me back, a need to confront not just him, but also the pieces of myself he had cast aside. "Nina, please. I didn't come here to fight. I'm here to make amends," he said, his voice unexpectedly tender. "I should have supported you. I see it now." What I didn't understand back then, he faltered, glancing down. "Art was your soul, and I failed to recognize that." Joseph shifted beside me, sensing the gravity of the moment. "Who is this guy, Nina?" His voice was steady, but I could hear the underlying tension in his question. That I held my ground, torn between the past and this moment of unexpected honesty. "He's someone who tried to silence my voice instead of uplifting it." "I don't need his validation." "I get that," Roger replied, his sincerity palpable. "But I'm here today because I want you to know that I believe in you now, Nina. I've seen what you can do. You have a gift." For the first time, he seemed to take a step forward, vulnerability creeping into his gaze. "I'm trying to change. I want to be part of the life you're building now, not to weaken it, but to support it." A knot tightened in my stomach, an amalgamation of confusion and rising anger. Was he sincere, or was this just another attempt to reel me back into the shadows? I could feel Joseph's watchful presence beside me, his silent support both grounding and encouraging. What do you expect from me, Roger? Just because you've seen a glimpse of my journey doesn't mean I trust you. My voice carried a fierceness I didn't know I had. Each word a wave crashing against the shore of my resolve. I understand, he conceded, looking at me with an earnestness that felt both foreign and eerily familiar. Trust cannot be rebuilt overnight. But if you let me, I want to help. I'm not asking for anything in return. I just want you to see how incredible your art truly is, so much it can inspire others, including me. I stepped back, torn between his offer and the instinct to slam the door on the memories that threatened to drown me. But beneath the layers of anger, I felt a flicker of something unexpected, an invitation, perhaps, to re-examine how I had let his past rejection shape my present. Joseph shuffled his feet beside me, visibly uncomfortable with the history standing on our doorstep. Nina, maybe you should listen to what he has to say. The words hung in the air, and my fight-or-flight instinct wrestled within me. Did I dare open the door, both literally and metaphorically, allowing him back into my life, along with the risk of being hurt again? I chanced to glance at Joseph, his supportive gaze reminding me of the deeper journey we had embarked on. Fine, I finally said, my voice steady but uncertain. But you have to know this is a fragile trust. You have one chance to prove that you've changed. Otherwise, I won't hesitate to cut you out again. Roger nodded, relief flooding his features. Understood. Thank you. Nina.as I stepped aside to let him in. A trickle of apprehension flowed through me. The figure that once cloaked my art in shadows now stood in the light, and I was left to wonder how this complicated encounter would unfold. Would he help me reclaim my passion, or would he bring about a deeper betrayal than I'd ever imagined? Just then, a soft knock echoed through the room, the sound crisp and cutting through the taut atmosphere. We all turned, eyes darting toward the door once more, as a wave of foreboding settled over us. Who could possibly be at the door now? My heart skipped, uncertainty circling like a predator, ready to pounce on yet another unraveling moment. The air thickened with tension, the atmosphere shifting like an approaching storm as I hesitated at the threshold. Roger's hopeful smile faded into confusion, but his presence felt like a tether to my past one I didn't quite know how to sever. Joseph shifted uncomfortably beside me, a lingering sense of protectiveness coating his words, albeit subtly. Who is it? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Probably just the wind, Roger replied, his brow furrowing slightly, but a flicker of caution danced in his eyes. You can ignore it, but I couldn't ignore it. The sounding of that knock had stirred up an unsettling curiosity, an echo of something unfinished. Stay here, I instructed, mustering the courage I didn't quite feel. I approached the door slowly, my heart racing with every step, the echo of each footfall reminding me that this was my home, a sanctuary I had fought for. I hesitated one heartbeat longer before pulling the door open, my breath hitching in my throat when I was met with the sight of a girl standing there, no older than 16, her eyes sparkling with a mix of audacity and innocence. She was clutching a canvas, her hands trembling slightly, and she wore a simple, tattered coat that had seen better days. Excuse me, she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. I saw your artwork in the window. It's beautiful. I wanted to give this to you. She thrust the canvas forward, and I caught a glimpse of the artwork, an explosion of color that erupted from the canvas. Wild yet captivating, much like the emotions swirling within me. Thank you, I managed, glancing back at Roger and Joseph, both of whom looked equally perplexed by this unexpected visitor. It's a copy of my favorite painting, she explained, her cheeks dappled with pink. I'm trying to learn, and I thought maybe it would inspire you. The moment hung delicately between us, a fragile beam of light shattering through the weighty clouds of my earlier conversation. Here was a young girl with not much to offer but a piece of her heart, freely giving a gesture of kindness that felt unreal in a moment already fraught with edginess and regret. That I took the canvas from her hands, my fingers brushing over the artwork delicately, marveling at the raw talent and genuine passion it conveyed. It resonated with something deep inside me, awakening a part of myself I thought long buried. It's incredible, I said, attempting to quell the swell of emotion rising in my throat. Thank you. She beamed, her nervousness slipping away. I was scared to bring it to you, but I just needed you to know you inspire people. Sometimes, you just need a little push to keep painting, right? The girl's words gripped my heart, a mirror reflecting the struggle I had yet to fully confront. What had Roger's entrance promised me, and what could any of this truly mean for my future? A confusing juxtaposition played out in my visible thread connecting the hope and dark corners of my past. You're right, I replied, sincerity breaking through the layers of my hesitation. Sometimes, all we need are the voices encouraging us to keep going, especially when it feels like the world is trying to silence us. I wanted to say more, but the gratitude and empathy rippling between us felt like a sacred exchange too precious for the weight of the moment to crush. Yes, so, I have to go. Mom's waiting for me, she said, her confidence waiting back as she took a small step back. Your art is really powerful. Don't forget that. As she turned to leave, I felt a strange surge of determination welling up within me, as if the very act of her belief was unfurling a pathway through the fog of my own self-doubt. I opened my mouth to thank her again, but the door suddenly slammed shut behind me. I spun around to see Roger, his face paled, panic filtering through his features. Nina, you shouldn't have engaged with her. You never know how wrong that could go, he said again, the authority in his voice painting his concern with an edge of protectiveness that felt both uncanny and familiar. Roger, I snapped back, the remnants of my earlier anger flaring to life. Here was yet another attempt to undermine the beautiful connection I had just experienced with that girl. She's just a kid, and she believes in something I lost sight of. Maybe it's you who shouldn't be so quick to judge. Joseph moved closer, siding with me, sensing the tension unfolding. Nina's right. We've all needed encouragement at some point. This is what building trust means too. But Roger's eyes darkened with a depth of worry that pressed down on my heart. Trust is a fragile thing. Nina, he said quietly, his voice laced with a tinge of regret. When someone feels threatened, they lash out. I furrowed my brow. What are you trying to say? Before he could respond, the soft clink of a familiar sound behind me distracted us. A small bell jingled, heralding the arrival of yet another visitor. I turned to face the door, dread coiling tighter in my chest. The day had already unraveled in chaotic surprise, and I found myself bracing for whatever storm lay behind that door. Would hope remain steadfast against the dark shadows creeping closer, ready to snuff it out? As I opened the door again, the gust of evening air carried a chill that sent shivers down my spine. This time, standing before me was a woman whose presence felt both unexpected and oddly familiar. Her hair tumbled in waves of silver, framing a warm, wise face that seemed to radiate love and understanding. Nina? She asked gently, her voice soothing like a lullaby. It's me, Aunt Margie. The name resonated within me like a long-forgotten melody, stepping out from the shadows of my memory. Aunt Margie, I echoed, as I stood there, slightly bewildered. Years had passed since I last saw her. She had been a pillar during my childhood, full of laughter and light, the kind of aunt who always believed in the unshakable magic of dreams. Yet as seasons of life slipped away, our paths diverged until they had become whispered remnants drowned out by the noise of adult worries. Nina, she began, her eyes shimmering with joy and concern wrapped delicately in one. I heard about the gala from your mother. I had to come see you. Her presence was a breath of fresh air against the fraying edges of my life, and instantly I felt the tension in my chest release slightly. Come in. I stepped aside, watching as she entered my home with the same grace I remembered from years past. Roger and Joseph stood silently, uncertain of what this new arrival would mean for the fragile peace we were trying to hold. Hello, everyone, Aunt Margie greeted, enveloping Joseph in her embrace before turning her thoughtful gaze upon Roger, who remained fixed, his demeanor tense. You must be Roger. Nina has told me about you. The electricity in the room crackled as we shared the weight of awkwardness. Roger nodded, still clearly on edge. What brings you back to us? Aunt Margie asked with genuine curiosity. I've been trying to help Nina, he replied, his voice steady yet careful, as if testing the waters. Well, she's lucky to have you. But I'm here because Nina needs to know something important, Aunt Margie said, turning her attention back to me. Those words wrapped around me like an embrace of warmth and familiarity, providing solace amid uncertainty. What is it? I prompted, drawn in by her soothing gaze. That we believe in you, Nina. We always have. But sometimes, life tests us in ways we never expect. Aunt Margie paused, choosing her words delicately. I see you wrestling with self-doubt, tied to a past full of fears, the shadows that have threatened to stifle your light. Emotion welled within me as her insights sliced through my defenses, igniting my spirit's suppressed desire to shine bright once again. I don't know if I can face everyone, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. The burden of my dreams loomed heavy against the horizon. The embers in Aunt Margie's eyes ignited, compassion radiating from her soul. Nina, it's never too late to begin again, and what you create can uplift not just you, but the ones you love too. You've been given a chance to uplift your family, and in doing so, heal yourself. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes as her words resonated within me. They felt like a lifeline thrown into the swirling sea. If I could only embrace my art, my true self, I could create bridges instead of walls, both in the contest and in my family's hearts. Your family's legacy is beautiful, Aunt Margie continued, grasping my hands gently. The bond you've formed with your brother, and even with this one, she gestured toward Roger, is a path that can reveal all the colors of your being. Lean in and receive them. They can help you remember your light. As her words washed over me, for the first time, I didn't just hear them. I felt them sinking into the fabric of my heart. Memories of joy and love ignited deep within me. The smell of fresh-baked bread emanating from Grandma's kitchen. The sound of laughter swirling freely as we created wonders together. Did I want to? I whispered. The weight of my fears still real, but warmer glimmers of hope were now mingling with them. Aunt Margie's presence felt like that of a guiding star amidst the turning chaos of the universe. Then do it, she said simply, her eyes glinting with encouragement. Create something that speaks to your heart and tells your story, but remember, you can't do it alone, she added, sweeping her arms to include Roger and Joseph. You have the support here, don't you? I looked back toward my brother and Roger, both standing wide-eyed, their hearts aware of the gravity swelling around us. Joseph's gaze glimmered with renewed belief, and Roger's tension eased slightly, his fragile trust finding purchase in this unexpected moment. That I can do this, I murmured, feeling a shift inside me, like tendrils of light chasing away the shadows. Together, we can do this. It was then that I realized, amidst the frenzy of my fears and looming deadlines, I had the strength not only to fulfill my dreams, but to uplift those around me while doing it. As I took a deep breath and turned to Roger, a surprising declaration slipped through my lips. Let's collaborate. Let's create something together that reflects our journey, our past, our dreams, our family. My voice took on a strength I hadn't thought possible, bolstered by the affirmation of those standing beside me. Roger looked stunned for a moment, but as I watched, realization dawned in his eyes. "ID like that," he finally responded, his voice firm and steady. "I've wanted to show you since the moment I arrived that I believe in you." Joseph's bright spirit reveled in the surge of creative synergy, jumped up with excitement. "Let's bring our stories to life." Aunt Margie beamed. "Then what are we waiting for? Let's start now together." After hours of laughter and unveiling layers of memories, our canvases began to fill with artistic expressions of hope, love, and familia, tapestry forming righteous and vivid hues that wove through the landscape of our history. And though time was short, the connections began to flourish. Every brushstroke carried with it echoes of Grandma, the wisdom of stories yet untold. As the afternoon light began to wane, warmth radiated in our hearts, pushing against the vestiges of fear. And in that moment, I felt a new dawn painting the horizons of our lives. Our collective story would now shine brightly, forever etched upon the canvas of my heart. As I stood before our masterpiece, the creation born not just from my dreams, but from the hearts of the people I loved most, I realized that I wasn't merely chasing a path of light. I had become the light, igniting the hearts around me, blending colors that would create the strongest legacy of all, a family forged in love. "We did this," I murmured, my heart overflowing with gratitude. "Together." And as I savored the weight of that word, I knew this momentous, simple act of collaboration was where the banishment of doubt truly began. I could create and heal, inspire, and create connections that reflected all that was beautiful in our tapestry. And when the time came for the contest, it would not just be a showcase of my art. It would become an exhibition of our family, a celebration of unity woven from our stories. And within that, I found the truth. I was always seeking the strength to embrace the journey, every twist and turn of love, pain, and joy, creating a singular path toward the light. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I realized the dreams we once held on to would now become the hearth of our collective spirits, forever burning with love, unity, and remembrance. In that moment, as we stepped back from our creation, I smiled and whispered to myself the journey had only just begun, and I would navigate it with the fiercest love and spirit, like an everlasting light that would never fade. And with that, my heart swelled as I welcomed each heartbeat, each bray of the testament to never forgetting that sometimes it's in our most vulnerable moments that we find the deepest connections, the truest strength, and the most beautiful art waiting to be created. Never again would I let fear disable my wings. I was meant to soar. And as the final stroke met the canvas, leaving a shimmering glow, I felt like I was no longer just a dreamer. I had finally become the embodiment of my dreams.